Today I felt the Lord really move into core values in the last probably 4, 5, 6 months. We're really talking about what core values are. And one of the core values, I believe, is living in community. And I think that somehow we don't quite sometimes know what that looks like. And I just wanted to talk to you about the basic principles of what actually core values of community actually is, and want to walk them through a little bit through Scripture this morning. And in the end, I want to give you something that the Lord kind of gave me a picture from. So I want to just read in 1 Thessalonians. It says, we love you so much that we are delighted to share with you not only the gospel of good, but our lives as well. Isn't that great? They don't want to just share the gospel, they want to share lives. Because you had come so dear to us, surely you remember those our toil and hardship. We worked night and day in order not to be a burden to anyone while we preach the gospel of God to you. You are witnesses, and so is God, of how holy, righteous, and blameless we are among you who believe. For you know that we dealt with each of you as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, and urging you to live lives worthy of God, who calls you into his kingdom and glory. I delight in that because they did not just go and teach. They did not just go and say, this is what you guys now need to do, but they actually lived among people. And I want to just bring out the basic feeling is that the enemy has been going around ever since the creation of the world and trying to isolate people into as smallest groups possible, and to the end get you totally isolated. And I feel like today we struggle community because most of our young kids are growing up with the iPhones and with the smartphones and with texting and everything else, and we don't even know how to have a conversation and look into somebody's eyes. That to us is uncomfortable. We'd rather want to text, we'd rather want to send a little, and then we're so weird because now text is maybe not enough. Now we do caricatures, which is emojis that either look happy, sad, or they actually now have emojis that you can somehow get a ton of facial features looking like you. So it's not you, but it's you, and then we somehow want connection, but we feel a connection with a caricature is better than a connection with me. And we kind of start living a life that we actually believe good friends, or we have close friends, which are actually on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter and whatever other things are out there. And we seem to relate to people with what they write, but really we can't really relate to people in a sense when they're in front of us. It's hard to have a conversation. And actually what happens is we lose the ability to have actually learn the language of our body. Learn the language of facial expressions. Learn the language. 70% is body language. Only 30% is what you say. And so when we're actually missing out on 70% of our being together with people, it's devastating to the structure of the kingdom, devastating to heavenly culture. Heavenly culture is built on family, being together, not just emailing, texting, and having emojis. Everybody understand that? So I'm for all this amazing stuff that we have, because I believe we can be powerful encouragers. We can be powerful in that we use it for the kingdom of God. But we can never stop meeting with people. We never can stop having a family and friends together. That is the kingdom culture. And if we don't understand the core value of that, we're going to end up in a place where the enemy is going to have a lot of ways how to actually infiltrate us in such a way that we're not going to make what God has created us to be. Remember, we talked about this, that the enemy doesn't care how rich you are. He doesn't care how many houses you have. He doesn't care about anything. But one thing he does care. If he can steal the vision that God gave you, if he can steal your identity through those attacks, that is what he's interested in. And one of the basic things, if it can take you out of your family, if it can take you out of belonging, if it can take you out of those things, then you're most likely to fail. And so I want to talk to you today about the core value of community. What does it actually mean to be in community? And why is it that we sometimes struggle so much not to want to be in community? First of all, I think the feeling is, I like to belong. Most people want to belong someplace. And the reason why we don't belong is because sometimes a lot of judgment is there, and sometimes a lot of insecurity in us is there. And so we read other people, and we try to figure out what they're saying about us. We try to kind of read what they're doing, and then somehow we don't feel like we belong. The kingdom of God says that we belong, then we believe, and then we behave. The world says behave, then kind of believe, and when you behave and believe, then you may belong. And God says, no, you belong. Sinners, all come to me. You belong because I paid for it. You belong. And in that we actually are received as children of God, then suddenly we start believing. And as we suddenly start believing, the transformation starts happening and we start behaving. That is the kingdom family structure. That's not the world structure. And we are here to influence the world. We're here to influence our society. We're here to influence our culture. And if we don't know what actually community is and the value of community, then we're literally just bypassing actually the structure of what God has actually created us for us to do. So it's so important that we actually realize that we belong. It somehow is said that know, see, and hear is being connected. Being known, being seen by people, known by people, and heard. Now, I understand that it's so, when we come into a room, but let me tell you this. If I come into a room, you know how people find that they're valuable? If I walk in a room and you know how a person will find out that they're valuable? They'll find out that they're valuable when you look at them and say hi. This is not about anything else. It's about you connecting. Now, I'm going to say this to you. How many of you know Cesar Millan? Yeah, if you have a dog, you know about him. Okay, he says, when you come into a house, you don't greet the dog first. You actually ignore the dog. You greet the humans first. Why? Because you want to teach the dog that he's not that important, that he understands where his rank is. Most of us, what we do, when we come into a house, if there's a cat, we will instantly go to the cat. If it's a bird, we go to the bird. If it's a dog, we will greet the dog. But we will have a trouble greeting humans first. Now, that is not okay. And I don't want to shame you if that's what you do. If you like him, I understand that. But the reality is we have to understand that people want to be seen, they want to be known, and they want to be heard. And if they're seen, known, and heard, that means they're valuable to you. One of the biggest things about greeting is that you actually acknowledge the person is in a room. One of the biggest things that people don't feel known, seen, and heard is because we are strange sometimes, because certain people we're uncomfortable with. Certain people, that's just not what I do. And there's no way for us to bring him into community if we do not make them feel they're known, seen, and heard. And actually, that takes time investment. And the way people will feel valued is not when you say, no, yeah, I like you, and yeah, no, but actually when you start doing that. The concept of community is whenever, it's not who does it first, it's not I always have to do it, it's whoever does it first. Let's try to be competitive and how to value one another. When we walk in a store, let's be competitive. Who says hi first? Who smiles first? Who maybe opens the door first? Who actually gives somebody else something of goodness? Because that's the value of community, that we do that. Known, seen, and heard. If you read Nehemiah chapter 3, and I'm not sure if I have all the time today to do that, but one of the processes in Nehemiah chapter 3 is that the backdrop was that the families built the wall. It wasn't just some individuals, because individuals in itself wouldn't be able to rebuild the wall. I want to propose to you that building the kingdom of God, because we're not building big churches. We are not interested in building big churches. We're not interested in building denominations. We're interested in building big people, because big people have influence. If I look at Nehemiah, He has a family building this section of the wall, another family section this wall, and everybody is building by community building. And it says, you read in Nehemiah chapter 3, he talks about all the different families who are building the walls. It is not a one-man show. And the kingdom of God cannot be built by one person, but the kingdom of God is built through the structure of family, the structure of community. And the wall basically was built to build protection. Protection about Jerusalem, which was actually in ruins because of they went into exile 70 years earlier. And here they're coming back, and the families are building again. The families are coming together. And then I said, well, you're building my person wall. They're building the wall by the way the family's giftings and talents were. And I want to propose to you that us building the kingdom of God is about connection in community and family. That we as a family of Stratford, we as a family living here, because Acts says that God has put us in these places. So we live here and we build that part of the kingdom that God releases us to build. That part of the kingdom that God has purposed us to do. There's going to be other churches and other believers, other tribes. They're going to be building the same thing in a different way and whatever else they do. And we encourage that. You see, because we're all building the kingdom, but it's not about competition. It's about championing and celebrating one another and the differences that we have. Not anybody may like how our style, maybe other styles are different, but we're building the kingdom. And I want to propose to you that we are in a season where God really puts, again, such emphasis on community. Such emphasis on community. I sometimes think it's hard for people who already have identity issues and everything else. It's so much easier to just stay home and watch TV. Watch some good preachers. But I want to tell you, if that's what we start doing, we actually have a huge problem. We have a very huge problem. He says, we're delighted, in 1 Thessalonians, we're delighted to share with you not only the gospel, but our lives as well. Let me ask you, are we delighted to share our lives with one another? Do we find in us the desire to be connected to people? Because that's what our purpose is. Do we delight being connected? Do we delight being in growth groups? Well, I think we just have to go there. It's kind of like the thing you guys want us to do. I know other churches who don't do that, and they're just fine. Let me tell you, you have an influence of 60 people. That's it. So a lot of times, this is how this works, okay? So you start with your tribe, with your family. You just start doing life. And as your influence grows and other people's influence grows, you just get bigger. And if you think that if you can go over 60 people and go to 100 or 200, you're actually deceived, because you can't influence that many people. Everybody needs to find their 60. Every person has to find their 60 people that they can influence. Because you only have 24 hours a day. You only have a voice that is so loud. You can only travel so much. And the studies has been made that you cannot really outgrow the 60 people that you can influence. It just can't. So if you want to build something, you need other people in community. You need other people in your family to build it. You can't build it by yourself. I don't care how loud your megaphone is. I don't care how loud, because people are not interested in what they're hearing. They were interested in relationship. So if everybody wants a relationship with me, it's not going to work, because I can only have 60. And you can only have 60. And I would hope that we not all have the same 60. That's called a cult. Just saying. So we don't want to encourage that. But I do want to say that, isn't it funny that God actually created communion not to be something that you do by yourself, which In other words, you can do it by yourself, but that's not what he actually wanted to do. He actually gave communion in community with his family members, which were his disciples. So if God actually thinks it's very important for me to do communion, I want to show them, I want them to remember what actually I did. I don't just want them to remember it by themselves, but I want them to remember in community. And so here you find in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, you hear the whole thing, and he talks about that they would get together and they would just eat like crazy people. They wouldn't wait for the poor. There was a big old buffet, if you want to call it that, and they would just come as they wanted to, and they just eat, and they would drink, and nobody cares about the ones who got late or the poor people. It wasn't even honored in the way community is supposed to be honored. You get together, you sit together. Back then, you would wash your feet, and then you sit on the table and you start talking community, and you start breathing community. That's what you did. Not just the in and out. I sometimes wonder if they had the microwave back then. I mean, it was an in and out kind of thing. And he says, that's not what we're doing. So I want to propose to you that when God created the world, he came from a family structure. It was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. There was a family structure, and the importance of community was exemplified because he actually creates man, and he says to man, be fruitful and multiply. He doesn't say be by yourself. He doesn't say, you know what, bang, 100 billion people on the planet right now, and we all grow like mushrooms out. That's not what he designed. He designed family. He designed structure. He actually designed it this way. He says, the mother and father will come together, and they're going to have children. He says, now the command was be fruitful and multiply. Why? Because I want you guys to nurture family. The older will teach the younger. And the younger will learn from the older. And in that, they will start subduing the world, right? That's subduing, that's what he said. Be blessed, be fruitful, multiply, and subdue the earth. And so the structure was kingdom structure, family structure. Have babies and multiply. Have babies and multiply. Are you still here? That means if I'm going to have babies, I need to probably connect. Today we connect on the web page. What are they called? Those dating sites, because I don't have time. And you know what? I'm not trying to say God doesn't work through dating sites. It's okay. But it's going to be really, really tough to have a relationship like that. Because community is not a dating site. Community is not some text. Community is being face to face and having conversation. And when I'm talking like this, it doesn't mean that I don't value the other things. But I think the enemy, anything that is God can do good or use for good, and the only thing why they invented it is because God invented it, right? God gives them that revelation. But everything that God invents, a lot of times the enemy takes and makes an excess out of it. And then it becomes bad. Chocolate is good. But if you eat too much, you get zits. Just kidding. All right. So in Genesis, it says to the families, be fruitful and multiply. And it's interesting because he didn't just save Noah by himself. He saved Noah and his family. So the value is family. The value is get your tribe, the people that are close to you. Abraham left with his family. Jacob left with his family to Egypt. And God saved the nation of Israel with his family, the whole nation. He didn't just take a few. He says, take all of the 12 tribes now, which means the 12 families, right? And go together to the promised land that I'll show you. Everything is always connected with family. Abram took Lot with him, and because Abram took Lot with him, Lot was defended by Abraham when he was taken. Remember that? So the vital importance about not going alone, but being together in community, being together. Moses doesn't go stand in the middle of the desert for 40 years and says, forget this, I don't know what I'm doing here. But he actually goes to another family and actually is there in community with the other family. He doesn't live there like a vagabond all by himself. And David, we all know that he was being persecuted and he actually gathered people around him, 600 men. And that was his family. So the kingdom structure is very important that we understand community is vital. I believe in the scripture we hear the miracle where the guy, he was a paraplegic, he was lame, but he had friends that picked him up, brought him to Jesus, ripped open the roof, and dropped him in. But let me remind you, there's the other guy in the pool of Bethesda who doesn't have any friends, because he is the one who says that I've been here 38 years and nobody helps me. So I want to ask and propose that we should really take a look at, what are we? Are we the people who, when we're lame, people will actually carry us to Jesus? Or do we have those people in our lives that actually care and love us that much? Or are we like the guy in the pool of Bethesda who just doesn't have anybody? Are we like those, or who are we like? I want to propose to you that we are to be people who are connected in community. And our survival depends on it. Our impact depends on it. In the New Testament, you always hear the family of believers, the church, it always talks about how they got together. They got together and prayed. They got together and ate. They got together and it was always together. It was always a family issue. It was always connection. It was always community. I want to propose to you that when I live in community, I find my purpose. You see, I can have all the knowledge in the world about what I am and what I'm not, but I've never got to practice this out. I only have it a head knowledge, and head knowledge doesn't get me anywhere. But I believe if I become a person that is connected in community, I find the things that I maybe thought I was really good at, maybe I'm not. Because when I'm in community, suddenly that gifting doesn't really show, and people go, oh, stop doing that. And suddenly I find in community that I actually really delight in this, or I really delight in this. And suddenly those things, because God gives you the desires in your heart, and so when you suddenly connect with the things that in community you didn't even know before, suddenly you go, wow, I'm actually liking this. I'm actually liking this. I have more of an affinity to this. I have more of a connection to this. I feel, or maybe you don't even notice, but other people notice you're really good at that. But in community, is that where actually you get to spring to life? In other words, your seed is in you until you're in the community, and the community actually waters that seed and suddenly starts sprouting. Suddenly you start sprouting because you live in community. And you need everybody in your community is your fertilizer. And it starts bringing up all this amazing stuff in you. I want to put it this way to you. In the Old Testament, the people understood the value of community. So much that they built a tower to reach heaven. The Tower of Babel was built by people who are in community and had the common goal. They were all working together, and what they wanted to do is bring earth and climb all the way up to heaven. And God says something very interesting. He says, if all these people are together and they have one mind and one thought, nothing will be impossible for them. And so he gave them a ton of different languages. And suddenly I didn't understand Bob, Bob didn't understand me, Joey didn't understand me, Hilda didn't understand either. And so next thing you know, we just left. Because communication is the most important thing in community. Whoa. Just, communication. If I don't communicate the definition of the other person as, I do not have a relationship. And so it's interesting that in Acts chapter 2, the reversal of the Tower of Babel actually happens, Because at that point, the tongues again come and he brings everybody in the world together. And so I want to propose to you that in the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples, which we actually call it's the disciples' prayer, is that actually he brings again the whole process, and he says that we are now to bring heaven to earth. Not the Tower of Babel from earth to heaven, but we're to bring heaven to earth. Now there is a community that we bring, the community that we are now representing, we bring community from heaven into earth, onto earth. Jesus poured out his Spirit on all mankind and all flesh, he says. So we are all under the influence of God. If we do what he says is a whole different story. He all gives us an identity and purpose which comes to life in community. Your identity and purpose will actually come to life in community. And we live it out with passion, unafraid, because we belong and we're accepted in a heavenly community. Here on earth, how it looks like is that you're going to belong and you're going to be accepted, but you're going to be criticized more than you are actually used to. And that's probably why we don't like it, because we like to be in control. We don't like people telling us. I think that's stupid. I had to run my own life. Who do you think you are to tell me what I need to do? And that's why we don't like community. People always have all these opinions about what I should do and what I shouldn't do and what I am and what I not am. And I've been hurt so much in life that I don't really like community, because the enemy somehow has been able to somehow twist the thinking of community and saying, you know, if you ask anybody a question about anything, it's just an uphill journey. So I better not share anything. I just do what I want. And if in doubt, as a Christian and a loving person, I can always say, God said so. And boy, that quiets down everybody, because nobody want to go against God, right? How many people you know? Well, God said that. Oh, God shared that with me. Well, what do you want me? Well, what do you think? God said. I'm saying nothing. Well, God told me to marry Hilda. Okay. Well, what do you think? Nothing. Marry Hilda. Well, why? Well, because God said so. Are you with me? We have this idea that, you know, when God says, that's our trump card. In a healthy group, in a healthy accountability, you can say that. But the question is, how healthy are we at times? What's our motivation? What's our motivation? And we live in community. The people who really love you and the people who really know you, they know you so well, they can tell. Yeah, that's the problem. I don't want to live in community, because when I'm known that well, then I'm exposed, and I don't want to be exposed. So actually, I don't like to live in community. I want to manage my community, but I don't want to live in community. Everybody? I did not intend to stepping on your toes. I know they hurt a little bit, but that's not my intent. My intent is not doing that. My intent is to bring about the core value that actually gives us freedom to live in community, without judgment, without condemnation, without shame. Community is not what you can get, but community is, how can I participate? You see, church is not about, well, I like the service, I like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. Yeah, there's too many I don't like, so I'm going to go. People leave churches, people leave families, people leave marriages, people leave jobs because of what they don't like. But maybe God put you there so you can influence. You see, Daniel didn't like Babylon, but he stayed in Babylon because God told him, and he influenced 3 kings. You see, it's really not about us, it's about us building the kingdom. And actually, you're going to be building the kingdom not in the light, most of the time in darkness where you don't like it. Because that is where God put you so you can breathe light. But we all like to be in a job where everybody loves me. I get raises consistently 12 times a year because I'm so awesome, right? And I get all the vacation in the world and everything. I love that. And everybody, when I come in, they all stand up and say, hi. And that's the job I want. And anytime I have a suggestion, everybody says, where were you all these years? And I feel so good. But I don't want the job where people go, shut up, do this, demote you, cut your pay, do whatever else. And you go, they don't like me. Of course they're not going to like you. But it's not them, it's the enemy, because he doesn't want you there, because you're there to change the atmosphere. You're there to change people. You're there to be the light in the darkness. Now, when we don't own that, we're going to be offended by what they do. We just go to the next job. As soon as you walk out of the door, you go, oh, praise God. How many of you have prayed for jobs? And then you got the job, you hate your job. Oh, I hate my job. I just think it's stupid. And my boss and my people and the drive is so long. Guess why that is? Because you have a calling to be there. The problem is that you don't like all the fighting that the enemy's doing to you. And that's why you want to leave. And I'm not saying there's not a legitimacy to changing your job. Please. Okay? I'm not saying everybody changes who got a miserable job, you have to stay there. I'm not saying that, okay? Just, right? Not saying, I have to stay there. You talk to God about that. I'm just teaching on something. Living in community is we need to do community. And then when we do community, the Bible says in Corinthians chapter 11, he says we have to know the poor among us. How will we know the poor among us if I don't talk, if I don't connect with them? I need to know the people who are going through struggles, and I need to know the people who actually need help. I need to know about the sick. If I'm not living in community, I will not know that. I will have no way how to do that. There is somehow an importance in us to meet the Jesus in somebody else. Because the Jesus in somebody else is going to look different than the Jesus in me. The Bible says that God is unsearchable, and he created each and every one of us an individual fingerprint. That means we have something that somebody else doesn't have, and we have to start valuing the other people. Because we value the other people, we live in community. Because we know we can't do it by ourselves. But I need to value the other people around. And the importance of meeting the Jesus in the other person is valuable. Because there's somehow a representation of Christ in you that is not in me, that I want to get to know. I want to get to know you. I want to get to know the Jesus in you, and I hope you want to get to know the Jesus in me. It is the same Jesus, it's just bigger. Because certain areas in me that I can't even, I'm not created to do this, I'm created to do this. And because of that, when I meet you, I get to see the other person, I get to honor that other person. I get to celebrate that other person. The challenge for us is to join a tribe. The challenge for us is to join a group. The challenge for us is to join a family. And we hate that idea. It's not something that is comfortable. And actually, we like it only when we go into a room and everybody goes, hi. And we go, oh, they noticed me. By the fifth time, they don't say hi. Why don't you say hi to me? Well, you know, there's a couple other people I wanted to say hi to. You didn't say hi to me first. I'm not important anymore. I'm leaving. It's true. But when I start stepping into community, that's when things start happening. I want to say this. The biggest killers of this world, I'm going to bring 3 of them up and then the 4th one. Air pollution will cut your lives down 5%. So if you're supposedly living to 100 years, 5 a year, those cut them right off. It's like taxes. Gone. All right? So air pollution will actually take 5% of your life. Excessive eating cuts your lives down by 20%. So now you're 80. You're done. Nobody asked you. Your eating habits will cut your life down by 20%. Excessive drinking will cut your life down by 30%. So if you live to be 100, but God says 120, I'm just for math's sake, I'm making it 100. So you're only going up to 70, 30%. But loneliness cuts your life expectancy down 45%. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that loneliness cuts your life down 45%. Why? Because when we don't live in community, we slowly and surely die inside. Community is the structure of God. And you come alive in community. The lie of the enemy is that they judge you, they don't like you. He always said, why is it that he tells you constantly that people are the ones that you shouldn't be connecting to? Because he tells you all the things that they think about you. Why? Because you actually come alive in community. He's lying to you and you're believing it, hook, line, and sinker. Oh, nobody likes me. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be this. I don't want to go that. No, then they asked me where I was. How dare they? Who do you think they are? Are you my mother to ask me where I was? No, I just genuinely miss you. I can't believe you missed me because I don't even like myself. Why would you miss me? I don't even miss me. Are you with me? Hey, if I don't love myself, guess what? I will actually believe nothing that comes out of your mouth that is positive towards me. Just saying. Oh, but we are so good at this, right? I want my individuality. I crave community, but I love my individuality. But when I'm offered community, come to growth groups, I cringe. I don't want to go. I don't want to be at church all the time, you know? I have a life. What do you do at home? Watch TV. I'm with my cat or with my dog, with my bird or whatever. I work out. Do you like your job? No, I hate my job. I hate my job. So you hate your job? What do you do after? I'm alone at home. But I don't want to go to church all this time. It's just not the church, no. I mean, that'd be fanatic to go to church 2 times or 3 times. They want me to go to growth groups. They want me to go to midweek service. And they want me to go to a class. They want me to go to a seminar. They want me to go. No, we don't want you to do anything. We just say, hey, you want to grow? It just depends on you. It's all fertilizer we have here. Community is your fertilizer. Do you want to grow? You don't want to grow. We're not making you come. We're just saying, hey, we're doing this. You want to come and grow with us? Yeah. No. Okay. We miss you. Don't tell me you miss me. Makes me feel bad, guilty. You hate me. That's why you hate me. You tell me you miss me. You hate me. No, I don't really hate you, but I really miss you. Well, I hate when you say that. Okay. I'd rather before you come, I'd rather eat 100 acres of pizza, of comfort food, every year in America. In America, every year, 100 acres of pizza are eaten as comfort food. Yeah. Pizza. Well, I eat pizza at night and I don't need anybody. It just goes right down real good. Oh, and if you don't like pizza, let me tell you what the other comfort food is. 50 million burgers a day are eaten in America. Are you kidding me? I mean, 50 million burgers. Come on. I feel good just eating them, man. I don't need to have a small group. I don't need to have a growth group. I'm growing myself. Woo-hoo! Come on. I'm just saying. Oh, and the last one is fried chicken. Every person in America eats 10 pounds of fried chicken a year. So that's how I kind of satisfy myself. I don't need community. I just need chicken, burgers, and pizza. Come on. We're doing good. Let me share something with you what actually God created you for in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3. And listen to this. Oh, I have to start talking faster. Oh. Praise be to God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort. Are you with me still? Okay, it sounds really spiritual, right? Who comforts us in all our troubles. How great is that? Do you feel good now? Okay, all right. Just stay with me. So that, now comes the ugly part, we can comfort those, what? I don't want to comfort them. That means after living community, I'd rather have a pizza, I'd rather have my burger, and I'd rather have my fried chicken, but I don't want to comfort those. That means I have to know them, I have to be in contact, I have to be actually in community. I don't have time for community. But God set us up in 2 Corinthians, he says, praise be to God and the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion, the God of all comfort, who comforts us. So he comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God. That means we are to be comforters to one another. How are we comforters to one another if I don't want to live in community? How do we want to be? You see, growth groups, all it is just a connecting spot. It's not supposed to be all in all for you for the week. Growth group is just a connecting place. But our connection with people in community, if all the people you see here, you just see them on Sunday, you're not living in community. You're just having an attendance. But you're not living life in community. You think, oh, well, I come to church, I'm a part of the church. No, you're only a part of the church when you live in community. I'm not saying you're not saved. I'm not saying you're not going to heaven. But I believe community, kingdom structure community, is we are part of a family. And I connect with you throughout the week, throughout my life. I connect with you. I get comfort from you. I get encouragement from you. I serve you. I find out what my gifts and talents are. You use me. I use you. This is great. I love community. When I feel bad, when I fall down, you're the one who picks me up. When I'm totally a lame person, you drag me to Jesus, drop me in front of us. Jesus healed this guy. That is what community looks like. I'm not upset. I'm just a little bit passionate, that's all. Don't take it as like, well, he's really ticked off. No, I'm not. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, it's not the NIV, it's the ESV version. It says, in the same way, let your light shine before others. I can only let my light shine before others when I live in community, not when I'm by myself. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 17, it says, in verse 18, in the first place, I hear that when you come together as a church, we come together. When we come together, it is not the Lord's Supper do you eat. As you eat, each of you goes ahead without waiting for anybody else. That's not how it's supposed to be. When we live in community, we need to act like in community. It doesn't mean that when we're together, everybody just does their own thing. That's not, communities, we do things together. When we grew up, my dad always said, we're going to do 3 things together. We're going to eat 3 times, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All through my growing years, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if we wanted to do anything, we can do it before lunch, or after dinner, but we were not, that was our connection time. That was our family time. That's what we did. Today it's hard to sit together with family and eating. Why is that? I don't know. I know. You guys know too. I want to talk about this real quick. We all know the disciples' prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Matthew chapter 6, verse 9 through 13. The prayer is assignment of the prayer is not for eternity. The prayer of assignment is for here on earth. And the assignment of God reveals our reason for being alive. So it starts off with, our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also forgive your debts. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. So let me break that down real quick. Calling him our Father is an affirmation of our identity. My building block in the community structure is I'm a son of God. I'm a part of, I belong because I'm a child of God. End of story, period. I don't care if you don't like me. But as long as there's humans around me, I'm a child of God just like you are. There's no difference if you're tall, small, black, white, yellow, blue, or dyed your hair. I am still a child of God just like you are. I carry the presence of God just like you do. Now, I can disobey in the presence, but I can always say that we're all created equal in the presence of God. So identity, the calling him my Father, actually breeds identity. It tells me the structure of heaven. He actually puts it in there and says, hey, you are in my community. You are my family. We're all sons and daughters of God. Hallowed be your name means the Father is holy and revered name. This is the key revelation that Jesus brought on earth. It puts us into perspective of who he is. He's not just our Father, but he's God. And this is the reason why he came to earth. And he commissioned us. And he says, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Your kingdom come. So the commission is the Father. He gives us identity. He tells us the heart of the Father. And he says, your kingdom come means God's kingdom. Your will be done on earth as it is. That's the commission. That means we're going to start pulling from heaven to earth. That means earth has to look exactly like heaven looks. I don't know, that's what I read. It is a co-laboring assignment to reveal the heart of the Father to the nations. It is a very specific application. And then it says, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also forgive those who are debtors. You're not going to forgive anybody if you don't live with anybody. Hello? So now he says, this is the assignment, bring heaven to earth. And now, eat together and forgive each other. As you accomplish this, eat together means connect together, eat, and also forgive each other. The family structure, eat together and what? And forgive each other. So it's not you are a lonely person. Father in heaven, how you being there? No, it is you in community. The answer to the requests on earth is that the fulfillment of each is a practical manifestation to that answer. And it says, for yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. This is an apostolic prayer. The apostolic term is used by both Greeks and Roman armies to describe the leader of an entourage with assignment to bring the culture of the conquering country to the one newly conquered. Are you there? Yeah. This is what I do. I'm going to take it out of that context. I buy a house, and I buy a new house over there. What do? I take all my belongings and I put them in there. And now I feel at home. What God actually says is that we are to bring heaven to earth. That means so he can feel just as comfortable in heaven and on earth. God says, I want you to bring heaven to earth. That means I want to feel as comfortable as I'm in heaven. I want to have, there's no difference between heaven and earth. That's what that translation means. Yeah. Are you still here? Yeah. You're looking at me like, what on earth? Where does he get that stuff? No, it's just in the Bible. I'm sorry. So I want to read in chapter 12 in Acts, and then I want to be done. I just want to give you. So for all those people who love the Bible and everything else, I want to applaud that. I love the Bible too. But sometimes God takes the Bible and turns it upside down. And then you start reading it upside down and you go, wow. So what I'm going to tell you is literally not specifically what the Bible says in that context, but I want to breathe on you today what God communicated to me how to interpret that for today. Acts chapter 12 talks about that Peter is in prison. And it was about the time that King Herod arrested some of who belonged to the church, intending to persecute them. He had James and brother John put to death with the sword. When he saw that this pleased the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter also. This happened during the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. After arresting him, he put him in prison, handing over to the guards by squads of 4 soldiers each. Herod intended to bring him out for the public trial after Passover. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God. The night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with him 2 chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared in a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. Quick, get up, he said. Then the chains fell off Peter's wrists. Then the angel said to him, put on your clothes and sandals, and Peter did so. Wrap your cloak around and follow me. The angel told him. Peter followed him out the prison, but he had no idea that it was the angel of the Lord was happening. He thought he was seeing a vision. He passed the first and second guards, came to the iron gate leading into the city. It opened from them by itself, and they went through it. When they had walked in length on the street, suddenly the angel left him. Then Peter came to himself and said, now I know without doubt that the Lord sent his angel and rescued me. And then it says, when it had dawned on him, he went into the house of Mary, to the mother of John, also Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. Peter knocked at our entrance, and the servant girl, Rhoda, named, answered. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed, she ran back, and without opening until exclaimed, Peter is at the door. I believe what the Lord showed me. He says, you know what? This is what's happening today. The enemy is like Herod. And he's been trying to put you guys, not meaning just the church, the believers. He's trying to put each and every one of us on the judgment seat, sitting there and judging, condemning us. He's out there to kill and to destroy. And each and every one of us has shackles by the enemy put on the sides. And we're always in the presence of a different family, the demonic family or God's family. And we are in prison, and God says he comes, and this is the season. He says, I come and I'm shaking you up. I'm coming into that dungeon because I declare it's enough. I'm coming in, and I'm actually, and some of you, as I said to God, I said, it's kind of drastic kicking. He says, well, because they need to be woken up. They're in their slumber, and they're not getting it. And so some of you are going to be ripped out of your, whatever your situation is. He's going to say, done. And it's going to be that light, and you're going to start, and God's going to start open doors, open doors, open doors. And next thing, they're all opening up, and you're walking out in freedom. And once you recognize, you suddenly go, oh my gosh, this is really it. And I want to propose to you, please listen to me carefully. I believe God told me this for this reason. Because I want you to be in the middle of the street, and then you don't have communities. You cannot go like Peter to the house of Mary and Martha. because it says, Scripture says that they were praying for them. And I pray to God that you have people praying for you. I pray to God that you live in community. I pray to God that you made a decision in your life to say, God, I don't want to be in the middle of the road, that you opened up the doors, that you brought me out, and I'm standing here, but I'm not living in community. I have nowhere to go. And I want to plead with you for your life, that you would start living according to heavenly structure, living in family, living in community. That it's time to start connecting. It's time to start finding your tribe. Find your people. Find your people that you can connect with wholeheartedly. They're not perfect people. They're people with faults. They're people who are going to tick you off. They're people who are going to encourage you. They're people who are going to fail you. But stick with them. They will close the door on you and not even open it like with Peter. Don't think they don't like you. They're just right now confused. Because if you don't, God is going to free you. But as soon as dawn comes, they're going to find you again. You're not going to have the safety of your community. And you're going to end up in the same place where you just ended up, leaving. The core value of the kingdom principle is living in community. I want to propose to you that the structure of the family of God is created as a core in family values, in the community of tribe and family. If you live by yourself and you're not connected, don't expect a lot of people praying for you. Don't expect people knowing everything about you. And don't be upset when they don't do for you because you're not living in community and they're doing for things for the people who are living in community, just because they don't know you. They may see your face, but they have no idea who you are. And not because they didn't try, it's because you reject it. I want to propose to you that God is doing something amazing in this season, but He's creating the basic principles, the core values of how to be successful. And the core values of how to be successful is to be in community. And I pray to God that today would be the day that you would say, you know, God, whatever it takes, I'll do. Whatever it takes, I will do. Because God, I surely want to be. The benefits of living in community outweigh everything else, outweighs it. You're so awesome. But you're not being watered because you're outside of the community instead of inside. And God is liberating and freeing His people, His children. He's freeing them. And so many of them are going to be on the street and not know where to go. And if that's you, just hunker down in some tribe. Find one. Find some people. Find them. Don't be critical. Rejoice. Start being thankful. Don't look at what doesn't work. Look at just the things that work. Start declaring, praising Him. And you're going to see amazing things happen. We're in a time of a season of an awakening. There's a great revival on its way. 1 billion souls are going to get to know Jesus here in the next couple of years. 1 billion souls. God is moving heaven and earth because He said enough. This is not just something that is happening, well, whatever. This is God's move on this world to bring in the great revival that was spoken and prophesied over for 100 years. I believe and declare that this is it. I believe and declare that God is moving and we are to be ready. And if every one of us gets their 60 people, trust me, that is eventually going to cover the earth. Amen? Amen.
Yes, that was, hello, check, check, hello, 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 hello. There we go, yay! Okay, if you guys can all stand with me. Oh, that was such a good word. Woo, so good. And if the prayer team can also come forward too, that'd be awesome. I just want to make time for those who don't have Jesus Christ as their Father. for you to come into the family of God and start being in that community, start being a part of the amazing things that God is doing. That's the most important decision you'll ever make in your life, to be in the family that God has created. And each one of us are sons and daughters of the living God. And we are so excited. We have a mission. We have purpose. We have such an abundant life of blessing and favor on our lives. And so we just want to make time for that. So if you want to do that, you can come forward, talk to any one of these people up here, and just make that awesome decision and have a spiritual birthday, right? So we also just want to have time for, if you have those feelings of loneliness or anything else that you came here for, saying, God, I need you to touch this in my life. This is a day that God wants to heal things. This is a day that God is breaking chains off you today. So I just encourage you, this whole area is here. Each one of us are here just to bring that breakthrough and just help you walk along that way. And also, I just encourage you guys to come back, have some community back there. We're having cheeseburger soup. Cheeseburgers. So we'll get our wonderful comfort food, but we'll also get our community being together. So have a great rest of your week, and come out tonight. It is Fifth Sunday. We want to claim the testimonies that God has had and that he's going to continue doing in our lives. Amen.